It is difficult and controversial to forecast the outcome of a potential military battle between major world powers like Russia and China on one side and the United States and its allies, NATO, on the other. As a result, the subject of our film for today is USA and NATO versus Russia and China. Who would win? The most important geopolitical challenge of the 21st century is becoming evident as Russia threatens the largest ground invasion of Europe since World War II. How can the United States simultaneously control two retroactive, centralized, nuclear-armed great powers, China and Russia? Many politicians and defense analysts agree that the solution is for Washington to scale back its response to Russia in Europe in order to concentrate on the more serious threat posed by China in the Indo-Pacific. The United States, which continues to be a major power with interests around the world, cannot afford to choose between Europe and the Indo-Pacific. Instead, Washington and its allies should create a defense plan that is capable of both preventing and, if necessary, conquering both China and Russia at once. Biden has recently sent a number of thousands of American soldiers to strengthen NATO's eastern flank, and for good reason. The 7 NATO members that border Russia, Belarus, and Ukraine could be in danger if a serious conflict in Ukraine spills over international borders. Furthermore, why would Russian President Vladimir Putin stop there if he were to succeed in Ukraine? Putin has demonstrated a strong desire to revive the former Russian Empire, and other weak Eastern European nations like Poland, Romania, or the Baltic states might be the next. A successful Russian invasion into the territory of a NATO ally could spell the end of the Western alliance and weaken the validity of American security commitments across the world. China also poses a significant challenge within the next 6 years, according to ADM. Philip Davidson, the former head of the U.S. Indo-Pacific Command, China might invade Taiwan. The United States may lose this conflict. If China is successful in taking over Taiwan, it will be well on its way to disrupting the Asian order that the United States currently leads, with a view towards doing the same throughout the world. Russia and China are also collaborating more frequently now. As demonstrated by this month's summit between Chinese President Xi Jinping and Russian President Vladimir Putin, Moscow and Beijing are forging a tighter strategic partnership, particularly in terms of military concerns. These tyrants might plan simultaneous assaults against the American alliance system or take advantage of the other's aggressiveness as an opening to act opportunistically. In other words, there is a real possibility of major power battles occurring simultaneously in Europe and the Indo-Pacific. Military ability, strategic considerations, geopolitical concerns, and the unpredictable nature of combat are just a few of the many variables that come into play in such a scenario. Real-world disputes are not games with preset outcomes. Therefore, it's important to approach this issue with caution. 1. Military capabilities. United States and NATO. With the most comprehensive and innovative military in the world, together with a well-trained and highly professional army, the United States is the leader in this regard. The military might of the United States has greatly increased because of NATO, a collective defense organization with 30 members. The American military has a distinct advantage because of its cutting-edge weaponry, including stealth planes, like the F-35, aircraft carriers, and precision-guided bombs. Moreover, space-based assets and technological warfare capabilities are essential during present-day conflict. Russia. The Russian military is strong and capable, with a focus on ground forces and strategic nuclear capabilities. It has a sizable inventory of nuclear weapons, which acts as a shield against massive assault. The development of cutting-edge missile systems and enhanced conventional capabilities are just 2 examples of the investments Russia has made in modernizing its armed forces. As a result of allegations that Russia has launched state-sponsored cyber attacks, concerns over cyber warfare capabilities are growing. China. China has a huge amount of manpower attributed to having the largest standing army in the world. In addition to aircraft carriers and 5th-generation fighter planes, J-20, it has made significant investments in modernizing its armed forces, which have improved both its navy and flying forces. A challenge for China's enemies is the country's missile weaponry, which includes hypersonic missiles. Aspects that are important for competitors in the future include cyber capabilities and anti-satellite equipment. 2. Strategic factors. Dynamics of the alliance. Benefiting from a long-standing and solid alliance that offers them an extensive range of military and political support, the US and NATO are 2 of the world's leading powers. The formalized alliance structure observed in NATO does not exist between Russia and China, regardless of their strategic alliance. Locational considerations. Any military conflict must take geography into consideration. Geographically separated NATO nations have a variety of potential fields of operations. Russia is a potential flashpoint because it shares borders with numerous NATO countries. China's primary geographic focus is the Asia-Pacific area, nuclear dispersal. The existence of nuclear weapons on both sides serves as a preventative measure against a full-scale conflict because the results would be disastrous. Distribution channels and logistics. A crucial component is the capability to maintain military operations over long distances and periods of time. The supply and logistics systems in place at NATO are strong and effective. The size of Russia's landmass could make supply routes more difficult, and China's capacity to project power is dependent on its naval strength. 3. Possible scenarios. Localized dispute. If there are clear limits and limited objectives, a localized dispute may not turn into a full-fledged conflict. Conflicts over proxy rights or territorial disagreements might be involved in such a situation. Full-scale war. Considering that both sides are armed with nuclear weapons, a full-scale conflict between them would probably be disastrous. The prevention of such a situation is in the best interests of all parties. Balanced warfare. Non-conventional weapons of conflict, including cyber attacks, information warfare, and economic pressure, may be very important. A country's capacity to function may be significantly impacted by these techniques. Communication and settlement. Through diplomatic efforts and discussions, the world community would try to postpone conflict. A key role in conflict settlement would be played by the United Nations and other international organizations. Numerous solutions have been put forward to deal with this issue, but all are ineffective. In order to concentrate on China, the Biden administration initially wanted to establish stable and predictable relations with Russia, but Putin had other plans, as the world is currently witnessing in Ukraine. Unfortunately, Washington is not allowed to choose the order in which its enemies will be aggressive. Others have expressed the wish that Washington might divide these nations, or even team up with Russia to confront China, but these are not practical options. Therefore, it is extremely controversial to try to forecast how an imagined war between Russia and China and the United States and NATO will turn out. Such a fight would have disastrous consequences in the real world in terms of loss of life, economic loss, and geopolitical instability. To avoid such a situation, it is in the best interest of all countries to place a high priority on diplomatic efforts, the settlement of disputes, and constructive international relations. History has shown us that war is too expensive to consider lightly, especially when it involves significant world powers. To resolve global difficulties and conflicts peacefully, the emphasis should remain on peaceful, intimate relationships, negotiations, and cooperation. That concludes.